Hi, my name is Philomena. I was 21 that Christmas morning. I can still feel the weight of those two $1 bills, so light it was almost laughable. Outside, my sister shrieked with excitement beside her brand new Rolls Royce, the kind of scene that makes the whole street stop and admire. I stood in the doorway quietly, trying to swallow the feeling rising in my chest. Inside, my mother slipped a small envelope into my hand, a plain card and two crisp singles tucked inside with a simple message: "For coffee, enjoy." I held them longer than I meant to, fingers tightening around the paper. Something inside me went quiet. In that stillness, I realized it was time to leave. Before we go on, tell me where you're watching from. Echoes of Life is right here with you. Growing up in Fairfield always felt like living in two versions of the same story. The outward life, perfectly polished. Holiday parties at the country club, seasonal photos staged like magazine spreads. A father who made his name in pharmaceuticals, and a mother who curated charity galas as if they were art shows. Inside the house, the scales were never balanced. When my sister was born, everything shifted. I became the reliable one, the helper, the child who didn't demand much. She became the treasured one. Their pride, their hope, their center. I kept convincing myself it was normal. Families change. Kids misinterpret. But children recognize truth long before they can explain it. By 16, the pretending stopped working. She got a brand new BMW with ivory leather seats. I got a used Civic to build character. They cried when they handed her the keys. They barely met my eyes when they handed me mine. So I pushed. I studied. I excelled at everything: debate captain, endless volunteer hours, top of my class. I tried to earn the affection she never had to ask for. Meanwhile, she drifted: parties, vacations, decent grades softened by the constant cushion beneath her. College only widened the gap. They paid her private school tuition without hesitation. I pieced mine together with loans and 3 exhausting jobs. Holidays told the same story every year. Her gatherings with ice sculptures and hired photographers, mine with modest meals and politely divided bills. I kept waiting for someone to notice, for someone to acknowledge me, to say I mattered. No one ever did. And eventually I understood. When people stay silent, it means they've already decided your role in their story. After graduating, moving back home felt like stepping into a life I had outgrown. Same walls, same rhythms, same quiet corners I used to disappear into. I kept telling myself it was temporary, just until interviews came through, just until I could relocate far away from Connecticut. But being there again made everything sharper. Patterns I once blurred into excuses became painfully obvious. Breakfasts carried little comments. Soft digs wrapped in politeness. Achievements of mine brushed off as if they were mild weather updates. My sister floated through her days with ease. New outfits, new vacations, new plans, all paid for without second thoughts. Their favoritism was never loud. It was steady, constant, like a slow drip from a leaking pipe you can't ignore. One afternoon, I found a holiday shopping list on the kitchen counter, written in my mother's tidy handwriting. Next to my sister's gift, no price limit. Next to mine, one word: minimal. I kept staring until the letters dissolved into smudges. Because deep down, it was never about the money. It was the message. The quiet confirmation I'd been trying to ignore for years. I was always the one they forgot to see. December dragged on like thick mud, slow, cold, impossible to move through. Each day felt heavier than the one before. I wrapped gifts my mother bought, chopped vegetables for dinner, stepped around everyone else's excitement, slipping back into the role I'd played my whole life. The girl who needed nothing, expected nothing, wanted nothing. Inside, I was folding in on myself again, trying not to hope for anything that could be taken away. The night before Christmas, my mother brushed my arm. A gentle warning: don't expect too much tomorrow. I smiled, nodded, pretended it didn't bruise something tender. But that was the moment something in me, something quiet and long-suffering, finally stopped bending. Later, lying in the dark, I stared at the ceiling and felt a truth rising through every old bruise. Whatever tomorrow held, it would change everything. Maybe it already had. I thought about every birthday they'd forgotten, every achievement they barely acknowledged, every time they praised my independence like it was a virtue and not a convenient excuse not to care. My mother was right. Christmas morning didn't break me. It simply confirmed a fracture that had been splitting for years. It wasn't the car or the money. It was the pattern. The overlooked victories. The milestones no one celebrated. The gentle voices they saved for someone else. By the time those two small bills rested in my hand, the choice had already taken shape. Leaving wasn't dramatic. It was survival. A quiet step away from a home that had never recognized me. Sometimes the softest truth inside you speaks the loudest. You deserve more than this. If this were your family, what would you choose? Comment 1 to keep the peace a little longer. Comment 2 to finally draw a line. Echoes of life. Here's the answers you never speak aloud. The rest of Christmas Day felt like wading through deep, heavy water. Laughter filled the house, bouncing off walls I no longer felt connected to. Neighbors came by to admire the new car in the driveway. My parents retold the story with glowing pride. I poured drinks, cleared dishes, and smiled exactly the way they expected. No one asked what I'd received. No one mentioned the card. The $2 stayed tucked in my pocket, a tiny weight sharp as a blade. By 10, the house fell silent. Sylvia drove off to show her friends what generosity felt like. My parents went to bed, satisfied with their performance. I stayed in the dim living room, laying the 2 bills out on the coffee table like evidence. $2 for the child who never asked for much. $350,000 for the one who always did. It wasn't envy anymore. It was understanding. At midnight, I opened my laptop. Not for school, not for distraction, but for escape. I checked my bank account. $3,200. Every shift, every tip, every holiday check I saved instead of spent. More than they believed I had. Far less than they'd ever take seriously. I typed in bus routes leaving Connecticut. Greyhound. Megabus. Anything headed far. Portland kept appearing. Rainy, distant, and just within reach if I was careful. The next bus left at 6 in the morning. Hartford Station. $147. Non-refundable. Before doubt could speak, I clicked purchase. I packed my life into one duffel. Jeans, t-shirts, one decent outfit for interviews, my laptop, chargers, toiletries, a folder of important documents. Everything else stayed behind, trophies, yearbooks, photos where I stood in the background. Sylvia could keep that museum of my obedience. At 2 a.m. my alarm buzzed. I dressed in layers for the long ride west. Hoodie, jacket zip tight, sneakers laced. My heart was strangely steady. I avoided every squeaky stair. Grabbed a couple of granola bars and a bottle of water from the kitchen. Opened the front door without a sound. Cold air rushed past me. Streetlights stretched my shadow across the frozen driveway. Christmas lights glowed on houses that had never been mine. I didn't look back. If they weren't looking either, then the truth was already clear. Behind me was the house where I had always been too little, too easy to overlook. Ahead of me were 3 miles of dark road leading to the station. I hitched the duffel higher on my shoulder and started walking. Not running from something, walking towards something that finally felt like a home I could choose for myself. The Greyhound rolled out before sunrise. Connecticut disappeared behind fogged-up windows. I kept my bag hugged to my chest, the $2 tucked in my wallet, and held myself together in a way I never had before. 3 days across the country felt like crossing into another life. Rest stops blurred together. Burnt coffee, dry sandwiches, strangers who didn't look too long. No one questioned why I was leaving. People who've run before can always spot another runner. We respect each other's silence. Portland welcomed me with the kind of rain that doesn't fall, it clings. Heavy, seeping through sleeves, settling into bones. I hauled my suitcase to a hostel where everything was shared. Bunks, showers, awkward half-smiles. People rebuilding from whatever broke them. That first night I slept for 12 straight hours. When I woke up, I was starving for a beginning. I applied anywhere that had a sign on the door. Cafes, clothing stores, diners, anything that would give me a chance. Daily grind took me in within minutes. Ruth, the owner, didn't interrogate my past. She simply handed me an apron like she understood exactly what I needed. Weekends, I squeezed in a temp job doing data entry at a law office. $10 an hour. 8-hour shifts. Endless rows of numbers. 60 to 70 hours weekly. Dinner was instant ramen, breakfast was a spoonful of peanut butter. My shoes were constantly drenched from the Portland downpour. But everything I had, I earned. Every piece belonged to me. At night, I forced myself through free coding courses with glitchy videos and half-broken websites. My brain ached with frustration, but I'd survived far worse. I pushed through. Marcus, a regular who always noticed my laptop, began offering small explanations. Never patronizing, never assuming, just helpful. One day he handed me a worn-out programming book. "Keep this," he said. That book cracked the door open. Slowly, then steadily, I began taking small projects. A simple website for a dog groomer, $2.50. My first income from a skill I taught myself. When she told me she loved it, I cried. More clients trickled in. A bakery, a photographer, a massage therapist. My confidence grew as my rates rose. I built a portfolio. I built discipline. I built a version of myself I didn't know could exist. 7 months later, I applied for a junior developer role. No degree. No family connections. Just grit and a folder full of nights I fought for. The interview felt like climbing a cliff, but I solved their tests, explained my thinking, and didn't break. They hired me, $45,000 a year, real benefits, real stability. I quit both part-time jobs. Ruth hugged me. "Go make something bigger," she whispered. So I did. I moved into my own apartment. Bought furniture that wasn't second-hand. Set boundaries I'd never had the courage to set. And then, slowly and without applause, I began to heal. Because once you learn that you can pull yourself out of the darkness, the world stops feeling like an enemy. 5 years passed before they found me. 5 years of steady growth, peace, and rebuilding. By then, I was a senior engineer. Good pay, a great team. A home that stayed quiet unless I filled it with laughter. Above my desk hung the frame, $2. Not out of resentment but clarity. The moment everything truly started. Then one morning, an email arrived from my mother. Flowery words. Selective memories. A request for money to pay for my sister's wedding. I deleted it. Blocked her. A week later, my father emailed my work account. Demanded money. Demanded appreciation. Demanded access to a daughter I no longer was. Blocked. And then a knock. They had flown across the country and showed up at my building as if nothing had changed. We spoke in the lobby, bright lights exposing all the ways they were exactly the same. They wanted $50,000. They wanted my time. They wanted the life I built without their help. I told them no. Calmly. Steadily. Without even a tremor. Years ago I would have folded. Softened. Whispered. Not now. Security escorted them out. I rode the elevator alone, walked into my apartment, closed the door, inhaled, and felt a buried weight lift for good. My life now is complete. A career I love, friends who choose me, a partner who sees me, a home without criticism or comparison. A future crafted by my own hands. The $2 remain framed. Quiet, honest, perfect. Not an insult. A spark. Part 6. The day they came back, rewritten ending. If this story stays with you, give the video a like, share it with someone who needs steady ground, and subscribe to Echoes of Life. We'll be here when you're ready for the next chapter.